The observation deck of the Deep Space Research Vessel hummed with quiet anticipation. Commander Sierra watched the holographic display of Earth with an intensity that made her senior analysts uncomfortable. Decades of careful study had led to this moment, a comprehensive analysis of a species that defied every known evolutionary and sociological model in the galactic archives. Humanity was an anomaly that troubled xenologists across multiple star systems. Their planet, a seemingly insignificant blue-green sphere in an unremarkable solar system, had become an obsession for the Galactic Concordance's research divisions. Most advanced civilizations followed predictable patterns of development. Technological progression, resource management, and eventual interstellar expansion would typically occur with mathematical precision. Humans, however, were different. The data streams told a story of unprecedented complexity. In less than 3 centuries, humans had transformed from horse-driven agricultural societies to a global technological network capable of instant worldwide communication. They had split the atom, explored their own planet's most extreme environments, and begun serious discussions about interplanetary colonization, all while managing intricate social systems that seemed perpetually on the brink of collapse, yet never quite fell apart. Sierra's most recent report highlighted several critical observations. Humans possessed a unique capacity for simultaneous destruction and creation. They could develop weapons of unprecedented devastation, and in the same breath, create medical technologies that saved millions of lives. Their scientific approach was almost chaotic, a blend of ruthless competition and collaborative innovation that confused most observational algorithms. The communication logs were particularly fascinating. Humans communicated through an incredibly complex system of verbal and nonverbal cues, multiple languages, and increasingly sophisticated digital networks. What appeared to be miscommunication was often a nuanced form of information exchange that traditional analysis tools completely missed. Most intriguing was their relationship with technology. Unlike other species that saw technological advancement as a linear progression, humans treated technology as a living, evolving ecosystem. They discarded technologies as quickly as they created them, a process that seemed wasteful to most galactic civilizations, but actually drove their unprecedented rate of innovation. The research team had identified several key characteristics that made humans uniquely remarkable. Their capacity for adaptation was unlike anything in the known galaxy. When faced with seemingly insurmountable challenges, humans didn't just survive. They transformed the very nature of the challenge. Historical records showed numerous instances where human potential had been dramatically underestimated. Economic models predicted their collapse multiple times, yet they always found unexpected solutions. Ecological challenges that would have destroyed other civilizations became opportunities for innovation. Natural disasters became catalysts for technological breakthroughs. Sierra pulled up a comprehensive timeline of human achievements. The rapid progression was staggering. From the first powered flight to global digital networks in just over a century, from rudimentary computing machines to quantum processing in mere decades, their scientific method was relentless. Each failure became a data point, each setback a potential breakthrough. The observation team had long debated the potential of human expansion. Conservative estimates suggested they would take several more centuries to develop serious interstellar capabilities. But those who studied them closely, like Sierra, knew better. Humans had a way of compressing timelines, of achieving the impossible through sheer collective will and individual creativity. A junior analyst approached, interrupting her thoughts. "Commander, the latest behavioral analysis is complete. The predictive models are unusual." Sierra didn't look up from the holographic display. She knew what was coming. The models always showed something unexpected when it came to humans. "Unusual how?" she asked, her voice calm but focused. The analyst hesitated, checking the data streams. "Our standard conflict resolution algorithms don't apply. Their response patterns suggest they don't just solve problems. They fundamentally redefine the parameters of the problem itself." It was a subtle observation, but it captured the essence of what made humans so remarkable. They didn't just adapt to challenges. They transformed the very nature of those challenges. As the research vessel continued its silent observation, Earth continued its complex dance of technological advancement, social transformation, and relentless innovation. Something was coming. The Galactic Concordants could feel it, even if they didn't yet understand exactly what it might be. The first wave of invasion ships descended like liquid mercury against Earth's atmosphere, their advanced cloaking technology rendering them nearly invisible to conventional detection systems. Massive gravitational engines hummed with a power that had subjugated countless civilizations across the galaxy. The command deck of the primary assault vessel was a model of calculated precision. Holographic displays mapped potential resistance zones, predictive algorithms calculated submission probabilities, and veteran commanders reviewed centuries of successful conquests. Fleet Commander Vexrel allowed himself a moment of professional satisfaction. The preliminary reports had been almost laughable, a scattered resource-consuming species barely managing its own planetary ecosystem, riddled with internal conflicts and technological capabilities that seemed primitive by galactic standards. Earth would be another footnote in the Concordance's expansion logs, another world added to their vast network of controlled territories. What the invaders didn't understand was the nature of human preparedness. Months before the first ship entered the solar system, a global network of scientists, military strategists, tech innovators, and communication experts had been quietly preparing. The first hint of potential extraterrestrial threat had triggered a level of collaborative response that defied all previous models of human behavior. Underground research facilities that had been developing theoretical defense technologies suddenly became active. Quantum computing centers that were ostensibly studying climate change and medical research pivoted their entire computational power toward potential alien encounter scenarios. Universities that had been competing for research grants now shared information in real time, breaking down every academic barrier that had existed before. The invasion ships began their descent, confident in their technological superiority. Their scanning systems were designed to identify and neutralize defensive capabilities. What they discovered was something entirely unexpected. Earth's defense systems weren't just active, they were adaptive. Satellite networks that appeared to be standard communication arrays suddenly displayed complex tracking capabilities. Ground-based systems that looked like simple weather monitoring stations began to emit sophisticated interference patterns. The invaders' primary scanning technologies started to experience inexplicable data distortions. In orbital control centers and military command posts around the globe, human operators worked with a synchronicity that seemed almost organic. Information flowed between different teams, different countries, different technological platforms with a speed and efficiency that contradicted everything the invaders knew about human social structures. The first actual contact happened over the Pacific Ocean. A massive invasion vessel began its initial descent, its hull designed to withstand the combined firepower of multiple planetary defense systems. What it encountered was not resistance, but something far more dangerous, a complete reimagining of defensive strategy. Electronic warfare teams had been preparing for years. Not just military personnel, but civilian experts in computer science, network security, and communication technologies had been developing countermeasures that went beyond traditional military thinking. As the first ship entered the lower atmosphere, its communication systems began to experience cascading failures. It started with simple signal interruptions, minor glitches that seemed inconsequential. Then came more sophisticated interventions. The ship's internal communication networks began to receive conflicting data streams. Navigation systems started to report impossible geographical coordinates. Backup systems that were supposed to provide redundancy became compromised in ways that defied conventional hacking methodologies. Commander Vexrel watched in growing confusion as the first assault wave began to experience systematic failures. These weren't simple defensive maneuvers. This was something else entirely, a form of technological engagement that seemed to anticipate and neutralize threats before they could fully manifest. What humans had developed was more than a defense system. It was a living, breathing network of innovation that could adapt faster than any invasion force could plan. Universities, tech companies, military research centers, and independent researchers had created something unprecedented, a global immune system for technological threats. The invasion ships began to experience total system failures, not through direct weapon attacks, but through a complex web of signal interruptions, data manipulation, and network compromises that seemed to predict and neutralize threats before they could fully form. As the first wave of invasion began to falter, something became clear to the Concordance fleet. Earth was not what their intelligence reports had suggested. This was not a primitive planet waiting to be conquered. This was a complex, adaptive system that had been preparing for exactly this moment. The first shadows of the invasion had fallen, but what would emerge was far from a simple planetary defense. Humanity was about to show the galaxy something entirely new. The global response was nothing short of revolutionary. As the first signs of invasion became clear, humanity did something that had never been predicted in any galactic behavioral model. They unified with a speed and comprehensiveness that defied all previous understanding of human social dynamics. In Silicon Valley, technology companies that had been fierce competitors for decades suddenly merged their research teams. Lines of communication opened between universities and countries that had historically been political rivals. Military research centers shared classified technologies with civilian research groups. The traditional barriers that had defined human society began to dissolve in the face of an unprecedented threat. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a quantum computing expert from a research center in Brazil, found herself in a virtual conference with colleagues from Japan, Russia, the United States, and Nigeria. The meeting wasn't organized by any government or international body. It had spontaneously formed through a complex network of professional connections, online research forums, and shared communication channels. "We need to create a distributed defense network," Elena explained, her holographic image crisp and clear despite being transmitted from thousands of miles away. "Traditional centralized systems will be too vulnerable. We need something that can adapt in real time." A researcher from a Japanese tech company responded almost instantly. "Distributed neural networks. We can develop an adaptive system that learns and responds faster than any centralized command structure." What made this collaboration unique was its organic nature. There were no formal agreements, no bureaucratic processes. Researchers shared data in real time, building upon each other's work with a speed that was unprecedented. Open-source platforms became war rooms. Academic journals were replaced by instant messaging channels, where ideas were developed, tested, and implemented within hours. The military response was equally surprising. Special forces units from different countries began cross-training at an accelerated pace. They shared tactical information, developed joint communication protocols, and created hybrid training programs that combined the best strategies from multiple military traditions. A special operations team from South Korea worked alongside Brazilian jumbo warfare experts, developing strategies that drew from entirely different combat philosophies. Tech companies contributed in ways that went far beyond traditional military-industrial complex models. Software developers created adaptive communication protocols. Drone manufacturers redesigned their technologies for defensive capabilities. Satellite communication experts developed new encryption methods that could withstand advanced alien scanning technologies. What the invading force didn't understand was the fundamental nature of human innovation. Every attempt to disrupt human communication networks was met with rapid adaptation. When one communication channel was compromised, 3 more would emerge. Traditional hierarchical command structures were replaced by fluid, adaptive networks that could reorganize themselves almost instantaneously. Educational institutions became critical components of the global defense strategy. Universities transformed their research programs overnight. Engineering departments developed new materials and defensive technologies. Computer science programs created adaptive algorithms that could predict and neutralize technological threats. Medical research centers began studying potential biological defense mechanisms. The global response went beyond technological innovation. Cultural institutions played a crucial role in maintaining social cohesion. Artists created media that helped people understand the situation. Musicians developed performances that brought communities together. Writers and journalists worked to provide clear, accurate information that could help people understand and respond to the threat. What emerged was a form of collective intelligence that was entirely unique. Humanity wasn't just defending itself. It was transforming the very nature of conflict. Traditional models of warfare, of technological development, of social organization were being rewritten in real time. The invading force had expected a fragmented, easily conquered planet. Instead, they found a complex, adaptive system that could reorganize itself faster than any known civilization could comprehend. Every attempt to identify a central point of vulnerability was met with a complete restructuring of human defensive capabilities. As the first phase of the invasion continued, something became increasingly clear. Humanity was not going to be a passive recipient of an alien conquest. They were going to fundamentally change the nature of the conflict itself. The collaboration had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. The research facility, buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, hummed with an energy that defied conventional understanding. What had begun as a classified government research center had transformed into something far more extraordinary, a global innovation hub that challenged every known limitation of scientific discovery. Dr. Marcus Chen stood before a holographic display that mapped real-time technological developments from research centers around the world. The display was a living, breathing organism of human innovation. Each node represented a different research team, each connection a shared breakthrough, each pulse of light a new discovery being integrated into a global defense strategy. The invasion had become an unexpected catalyst for scientific evolution. Technological barriers that had seemed insurmountable weeks ago were now being dismantled with breathtaking speed. Quantum computing researchers who had been working on theoretical models now found themselves developing practical applications in days rather than decades. Materials scientists created composites that could withstand energy signatures previously thought impossible. What made the human response unique was its approach to innovation. Unlike most advanced civilizations that followed linear technological progression, humans treated technology as a living ecosystem. Each failure became a data point, each setback an opportunity for radical reimagining. A team of young researchers from a collaborative international program had just developed a breakthrough in adaptive material science. Their new composite could change its molecular structure in response to external energy signatures. What started as a theoretical concept became a practical defense mechanism within weeks of the initial invasion attempt. In another section of the facility, bioengineers worked alongside computer scientists to develop neural network interfaces that could process information faster than any known computational system. They weren't just creating a defense, they were redefining the very concept of technological adaptation. The most surprising developments came from unexpected sources. A group of game designers created predictive algorithms that could anticipate complex strategic patterns. Climate scientists applied their modeling techniques to develop advanced scanning technologies. Electrical engineers from small research centers in developing countries contributed innovations that completely reshaped understanding of energy transmission. Global communication networks became more than just information highways. They transformed into a distributed intelligence system that could analyze, adapt, and respond to threats in milliseconds. Every piece of captured alien technology became a learning opportunity, quickly reverse-engineered and improved upon. Manufacturing centers around the world retooled with unprecedented speed. 3D printing facilities that had been producing consumer goods now created advanced defensive components. Supply chains that had once been global economic networks became rapid prototyping and production platforms for defensive technologies. Dr. Chen watched as a new algorithm developed by a team of researchers in Kenya integrated with a materials science breakthrough from a laboratory in Canada. The speed of integration was beyond anything the alien observers could comprehend. Humans weren't just defending, they were transforming the very nature of technological development. Medical research centers contributed in ways that went far beyond traditional understanding. Researchers studying human adaptability discovered neurological and physiological characteristics that defied previous scientific models. The human brain's capacity for rapid learning and adaptation became a subject of intense study, with potential implications far beyond immediate defense needs. Energy research took quantum leaps forward. Theoretical concepts of energy transmission that had been discussed for decades became practical applications. Solar technology, fusion research, and quantum energy storage saw breakthroughs that compressed decades of research into weeks. The alien invasion had become an unexpected crucible of human potential. Every attempt to understand or categorize human technological capabilities failed. Traditional observational models collapsed in the face of human innovation. What the invaders saw as a primitive species was rapidly proving to be something entirely different, a dynamic, adaptive, collaborative intelligence that could transform challenges at an unprecedented rate. As the day progressed, Dr. Chen watched the holographic display with a mixture of excitement and profound understanding. Humanity was not just responding to a threat. They were rewriting the very rules of technological development, of species interaction, of scientific possibility. The innovation crucible was just beginning to heat up. The communication center looked nothing like a traditional military installation. Screens covered every surface, displaying a complex web of global media, social networks, and communication channels. Here, humanity's most powerful weapon was being deployed: information itself. Dr. Samira Khan stood at the center of this neural network of communication, observing how humanity was transforming the very nature of conflict. The invasion had become more than a physical confrontation. It was a battle of narrative, of collective understanding, of psychological resilience. Global media platforms, which had once been divided by corporate interests and national boundaries, now operated as a unified information ecosystem. Every story, every broadcast, every piece of shared content became a strategic tool. Traditional methods of communication had been replaced by something far more complex: a distributed, adaptive communication network that could respond to threats in real time. Artists became as crucial to the defense strategy as military strategists. Musicians created compositions that helped people process the psychological impact of the invasion. Visual artists developed multimedia experiences that transformed fear into collective resilience. Writers crafted narratives that helped people understand the broader context of the conflict. Social media platforms, once criticized for division, now became tools of unprecedented global unity. Language translation technologies worked in real time, allowing people from different cultures to share experiences instantly. A video of resistance from a small town in Brazil could inspire collective action in Japan within minutes. The psychological warfare was multilayered. Humanity wasn't just defending against an external threat. They were redefining the very concept of resistance. Every attempt by the invaders to create fear was met with a wave of collective creativity and hope. Research teams studied human psychological responses with unprecedented depth. They discovered that human beings possessed a unique capacity to transform collective trauma into collective strength. Where other species might have collapsed under the weight of an invasion, humans were finding new ways to connect, to understand, to resist. Cultural institutions played a critical role. Museums began documenting the invasion in real time, creating living archives that transformed the experience into a collective narrative. Educational programs adapted instantly, helping people of all ages understand the broader implications of the conflict. The invading force found themselves confronted with a psychological landscape they could not comprehend. Traditional methods of psychological warfare relied on creating division, on exploiting existing social tensions. But humanity had done something unexpected. They had used the invasion as a catalyst for unprecedented global unity. Communication experts developed new protocols that went beyond traditional information exchange. They created adaptive communication systems that could share information across multiple platforms, in multiple formats, ensuring that no single point of communication could be fully compromised. Linguistic researchers made breakthrough discoveries about human communication. They found that human language was far more than a simple information exchange system. It was a complex, adaptive network that could convey multiple layers of meaning simultaneously. The global response defied all previous understanding of human communication. News networks from different countries began sharing resources, creating a truly global information platform. Journalists worked across traditional boundaries, verifying information in real time, creating a level of transparency that was unprecedented. Entertainment became a form of psychological resistance. Video game developers created immersive experiences that helped people process the invasion. Virtual reality platforms allowed people to share experiences, to understand the global nature of the conflict in ways that went beyond traditional media. What the invaders discovered was that humanity's greatest strength was not in its technological capabilities, but in its ability to create meaning. Every attempt to disrupt human communication was met with new, more adaptive forms of connection. Psychological research centers around the world began to understand something profound. The invasion was revealing aspects of human potential that had never been fully understood. The human capacity for adaptation, for finding hope in the most challenging circumstances, was becoming a subject of intense study. As the conflict continued, it became clear that this was more than a traditional invasion. It was a collision of fundamentally different ways of understanding existence. Humanity was not just defending itself. It was demonstrating a form of collective intelligence that went beyond any previous galactic understanding. The psychological dynamics had changed, and nothing would ever be the same again. The research facility, deep within the Andes Mountains, became ground zero for the most critical breakthrough of the invasion. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a holographic display that pulsed with an otherworldly complexity, her team of international researchers surrounding her in a state of collective anticipation. What they had discovered was nothing short of revolutionary. The captured alien communication networks, which the invaders had believed to be impenetrable, contained a fundamental flaw that no other species had ever noticed. It wasn't a technological weakness, but a deeper, more profound structural vulnerability that spoke to the fundamental differences between human and alien thought processes. The breakthrough had come from an unexpected collaboration. A network security expert from South Africa, a quantum computing researcher from China, a linguistic anthropologist from Canada, and a neural network specialist from India had been working in a continuous virtual conference. Their diverse backgrounds created a mode of analysis that went far beyond traditional scientific approaches. It's not just about breaking their communication, Dr. Rodriguez explained to her global team. We're rewriting the entire concept of information exchange. The alien communication network was built on a hierarchical system of information transfer. Each piece of data was rigidly classified, with strict protocols governing its movement. Humans, by contrast, had developed a communication system that was fundamentally organic, adaptive, and nonlinear. The team had discovered that the alien network could be systematically compromised by introducing seemingly random information patterns. What appeared to be noise to the alien system was actually a complex form of communication that the invaders couldn't comprehend. Military strategists around the world began to implement the breakthrough. It wasn't just about defeating the invasion. It was about fundamentally changing the nature of interspecies conflict. Every communication channel became a potential weapon. Every piece of information a strategic tool. Quantum computing centers around the world began to work on a distributed network that could exploit the newly discovered vulnerability. Universities that had been competitors now shared information in real time, creating a global research platform that moved faster than any centralized command structure. The first signs of the breakthrough became apparent during a major invasion attempt over the Pacific Ocean. Alien vessels began to experience cascading system failures that defied traditional understanding. Communication networks collapsed from within. Navigation systems began to report impossible coordinates, and defensive mechanisms turned against their own infrastructure. What made the human approach unique was its holistic nature. This wasn't just a technological solution. It was a comprehensive reimagining of communication, of conflict, of the very nature of information exchange. Research teams discovered that the alien communication network was fundamentally rigid. It couldn't adapt to the type of creative, non-linear thinking that humans naturally employed. Every attempt to predict human behavior failed because humans didn't follow predictable patterns. The breakthrough went far beyond military application. Researchers began to understand something profound about the nature of intelligence itself. The alien communication network represented a form of intelligence that was efficient but fundamentally limited. Human intelligence, with its capacity for creativity, for finding unexpected solutions, represented something entirely different. Global communication networks became more than just information exchanges. They transformed into a distributed intelligence system that could analyze, adapt, and respond to threats in milliseconds. Captured alien technologies were not just studied, they were completely reimagined. Dr. Rodriguez watched as the holographic display showed the first large-scale breakdown of the alien communication network. It wasn't a violent destruction, but a systematic dismantling that revealed the fundamental limitations of the invading force's understanding of intelligence. "We're not just defending," she said quietly to her team. "We're demonstrating an entirely new way of understanding existence." The turning point had arrived. Humanity had discovered something that went beyond traditional concepts of warfare, of communication, of species interaction. They weren't just fighting an invasion. They were revealing the profound limitations of a civilization that had never encountered a truly adaptive intelligence. As the alien communication networks began to collapse, something became clear. This was more than a conflict. It was a fundamental collision of different ways of understanding the universe itself. The turning point was here, and nothing would ever be the same again. The first human counterattack was nothing like traditional military doctrine would have predicted. It wasn't about total destruction or complete annihilation. Instead, it was a carefully orchestrated demonstration of technological and strategic superiority that would reshape galactic understanding of conflict. Global defense forces had transformed from isolated national militaries into a unified, adaptive response network. Command centers in Tokyo worked in perfect synchronization with research facilities in Brazil, communication hubs in Kenya, and strategic planning centers in Canada. The old boundaries of national defense had dissolved, replaced by a truly global defensive strategy. Admiral Michael Chen stood on the bridge of the first adaptive response vessel, a craft that was more of a mobile research platform than a traditional warship. Its design defied conventional understanding of space combat. Sections of the hull could reconfigure in milliseconds, energy systems could be redirected with unprecedented speed, and its computational core was a living network of adaptive intelligence. The counterattack began with a series of precisely targeted communications disruptions. Human teams didn't aim to destroy alien infrastructure. They sought to demonstrate the fundamental limitations of the invading force's technological and strategic capabilities. Each intervention was a carefully calculated message. Humanity was not a passive target, but an active, adaptive intelligence. Research teams had discovered something profound about the alien civilization. Their technological and social systems were built on rigid hierarchical structures that couldn't adapt to unexpected inputs. Human strategies exploited this fundamental weakness, introducing complex information patterns that the alien networks couldn't process. Space became a canvas of strategic communication. Probe systems developed by international research teams were deployed with unprecedented creativity. These weren't traditional weapons, but complex information delivery systems that could rewrite the parameters of conflict itself. The most surprising aspect of the counterattack was its underlying philosophy. Military strategists worked alongside philosophers, cultural experts, and communication specialists. The goal wasn't complete destruction, but a fundamental demonstration of human potential. Captured alien technologies were studied, understood, and then transformed. Research centers around the world treated each piece of alien equipment as a learning opportunity. Universities that had been competitors now shared information in real time, creating a global research platform that moved faster than any centralized command structure. Diplomatic channels remained open, but not in any traditional sense. Human communication teams developed unprecedented approaches to interspecies dialogue. They weren't seeking surrender. They were demonstrating a fundamentally different approach to conflict resolution. The economic impact was equally revolutionary. Global manufacturing centers retooled with unprecedented speed. Industries that had been competitors now worked as a unified network, developing defensive and adaptive technologies at a rate that defied previous understanding of industrial development. Space research centers discovered something extraordinary about the captured alien technologies. They weren't just advanced, they revealed fundamental limitations in the invading civilization's approach to technological development. Human researchers could see potential improvements and innovations that the original designers had never considered. Each strategic intervention was carefully documented. This wasn't just a military campaign. It was a comprehensive study of interspecies conflict, of technological adaptation, of the nature of intelligence itself. Museums began creating real-time exhibits that explored the conflict from multiple perspectives. The counterattack moved beyond physical spaces. Information networks became weapons of unprecedented sophistication. Communication platforms developed methods of transmitting complex ideas that could fundamentally challenge the invaders' understanding of existence. Medical research teams made breakthrough discoveries by studying alien biological systems. What had begun as a defensive effort became an unprecedented opportunity for scientific understanding. Research centers around the world shared information in real time, creating a global platform of discovery. Admiral Chen watched the holographic displays that mapped the counterattack's progress. This was more than a military operation. It was a comprehensive demonstration of human potential, a declaration to the galaxy about the nature of human intelligence. "We're not just defending," he said quietly to his team. "We're redefining the entire concept of conflict." As the counterattack continued, something became clear. Humanity was doing something unprecedented. They weren't just responding to an invasion. They were transforming the very nature of interspecies interaction. The message to the galaxy was clear. Humanity was not a species to be conquered. They were a force to be understood. The final confrontation took place not on a battlefield, but in a carefully constructed diplomatic environment that defied all previous models of interspecies negotiation. Representatives from Earth stood not as conquered people, but as equals who had fundamentally transformed the nature of the conflict. The chamber was a marvel of adaptive architecture, designed to accommodate the physiological and psychological needs of multiple species. Holographic displays shimmered with real-time translations, communication protocols that went far beyond simple language conversion. This was a meeting of intelligences, not just representatives. Dr. Elena Rodriguez led the human delegation. She was not a military commander or a traditional diplomat, but a researcher who embodied the collaborative spirit that had defined humanity's response to the invasion. Beside her stood representatives from every continent, every major cultural background, a living demonstration of the global unity that had emerged during the conflict. The leaders of the Galactic Concordance sat in stunned silence. Their initial invasion plans had been completely dismantled, not through traditional military might, but through a comprehensive demonstration of human potential that defied every known model of species interaction. "We are not seeking revenge," Dr. Rodriguez began, her voice calm and measured. "We are seeking understanding." The human approach was unprecedented. Instead of demanding reparations or total submission, the delegation presented a comprehensive analysis of the conflict. They shared not just the defensive strategies that had repelled the invasion, but the scientific discoveries, the technological innovations, the cultural transformations that had emerged. Research teams had discovered something profound about the invasion. It wasn't just a military conflict. It was a fundamental collision of different approaches to intelligence, to existence, to the very nature of progress. The diplomatic team presented a series of proposals that went far beyond traditional interspecies agreements. They weren't asking for protection or compensation. They were offering a new model of galactic interaction, one based on mutual understanding, collaborative research, and shared discovery. Global research centers had been documenting every aspect of the conflict. Museums were already creating exhibits that explored the invasion from multiple perspectives. Educational programs were being developed to help people understand the broader implications of the encounter. The most surprising element was the human approach to the captured alien technologies. Instead of seeking to weaponize or completely control the advanced systems, human researchers were developing collaborative research platforms. They saw the alien technologies as an opportunity for mutual understanding. Medical research teams had made breakthrough discoveries by studying alien biological systems. What had begun as a defensive effort had transformed into an unprecedented opportunity for scientific collaboration. Research centers around the world had shared information in real time, creating a global platform of discovery that went far beyond the initial conflict. The representatives of the Galactic Concordance found themselves confronted with a species that didn't fit any of their existing models. Humans had not just defended themselves, they had fundamentally changed the nature of the encounter. Dr. Rodriguez presented a comprehensive proposal. It wasn't a treaty of submission or a declaration of war. It was an invitation to a new form of galactic interaction. The humans proposed collaborative research centers, shared technological development platforms, and a completely new approach to interspecies communication. The diplomatic team demonstrated something profound. Humanity's strength was not in its ability to destroy, but in its capacity to understand, to adapt, to grow. They presented the invasion not as a moment of conflict, but as an opportunity for mutual discovery. Cultural experts had been preparing for this moment. They presented research that explored the deeper psychological and social implications of the encounter. This wasn't just a diplomatic meeting. It was a comprehensive exploration of different approaches to intelligence, to existence, to progress. As the negotiations continued, something became clear. Humanity was offering something unprecedented, a truly collaborative approach to galactic interaction. They weren't seeking to conquer or be conquered. They were seeking to understand. The final proposal was simple yet revolutionary. Humanity invited the Galactic Concordance to participate in a comprehensive research initiative. It would explore not just the technological and biological differences between their species, but the fundamental nature of intelligence itself. In that moment, something changed. The invasion was no longer a moment of conflict. It had become an opportunity for a new understanding. The galaxy would never be the same again.